Hello, I'm Ralph McIntyre, one of the faculty at Kepler College in the Astro Mapping program. I teach the Geodetic Mapping equivalent class. We're going to talk about the transits for July 2025 from the perspective of the geodetic map. One of the nice things about the geodetic mapping system is it takes the astrological coordinate of the planet and maps it to the longitude of the Earth's lat-long system. And so what's nice about this is you don't need birth time, and also it's a line that will move relatively slowly over a long period of time. And so it's very good for using it for transits. It's very good for using it for predicting things. Unlike astrocartography lines that move relatively quickly, every few minutes they're going to move a couple hundred miles. The geodetic lines will stay in the same location for a long time, depending on the speed of the planet. So the moon moves relatively quickly through the zodiac, so it's going to move quickly on the geodetic map. Pluto moves slow, so it's going to move extremely slow. And so if you want to follow along, you can go to geodeticmap.com, and I have a free tool that I have created for people to look, and you can look up your own birth date, you can look up any day in the past, and you can also follow along and look at the transits for your particular location. And the nice thing about this is you can zoom in anywhere and see what's going on for you. So to start with, we're going to go to the United States. So right now we're looking at the whole world geodetic for July 1st. So a couple things I want to point out, and the lines are all color-coded. The system has a bunch of information. If you look at the top, you'll see all the planets are color-coded. And then if you hover your mouse over the top of it, it'll tell you the degree and sign. It'll also tell you all the aspects. It also tells you about least aspected and most aspected planets, which I find that are very significant when you're looking at what's going to go on in the world, what's happened, and last month I was talking about how there was a lot of energy with Uranus going over Iran, and there was a lot of activity in Iran in the last couple of days. And so this is a very, very powerful system. And if you want to find out more about that, you can take my geodetic class. I have one starting on the 6th of July. There's still room available. So if you're interested, sign on up. There'll be links for all this in the description, by the way, too. So if you don't remember the links. But again, if you want to follow along, go to geodeticmap.com, click on the link, and you will get to this map. Okay, so let's start by looking at the United States on the 1st of the month. And so the first thing I want to point out is we got a lot of activity on the West Coast. We have Venus is coming over, Venus in Taurus, Mercury sitting there in Leo, Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus are all hanging out here on the West Coast of the United States. And interestingly enough, Mercury is going to be sitting there retrograde and kind of coming back and forth. If you go forward, let's see, you'll see Mercury makes it almost all the way to Idaho, middle of Idaho, before on the 18th, before it starts going backwards. And that's the nice thing about the geodetic map, is because it's mapping the astrological degree of the planet, it will allow you to kind of understand what's going to happen by just understanding what's happening in the sky. So if you know Mercury's going retrograde, you know the planets normally move eastward, but when they go retrograde, they move westward. And so Pluto in Aquarius is going to be sitting up here on the west coast of the United States for quite a long time, the Pluto ascendant line. Some of the activity that's a little bit different. Now, same with Uranus, will be moving slowly eastward for quite a few years. It's getting ready to move into Gemini, which is going to be a significant change this month. But the things that are actually interesting and you can actually follow this Venus line, because Venus, if you look at where it is on the 1st of July, compared to where it is at the end of July on the 31st, and it's hiding over here with the Saturn Neptune here in the middle of the United States. So by knowing that Venus is going to be moving across most of the western part of the United States, you can actually look up the date where Venus is going to be right on your house, right on a location that you're interested in or working with, and you can use that energy accordingly. Venus being in Taurus, and however you would interpret it, that you could use that energy. And the same with Mercury. So Mercury being retrograde doesn't move quite that far because it goes forward and then comes back. And so the other area that I wanted to point out is this Mars is moving through the middle part of the United States. Mars is in Leo. So on the first of the month, Pluto's the least aspected planet, and I want to say the moon is the most aspected planet. And I want to say the moon is actually sitting right there with Neptune and Saturn. And the moon actually moves the fastest of all the planets. It'll move quite a distance in just a short period of time. And then the other line that you want to pay attention is that Jupiter in Cancer is right there in the Midwest, and it's going to be moving eastward. And same with the Sun. So if you look at that Jupiter line on the 1st of July, it's just east of Chicago, and at the end of the month, it's actually almost to Washington, D.C. And as you can see, the moon has moved quite a bit off. The sun is moved off. The sun moves relatively quickly. All the fast-moving planets will move across the map relatively quickly. So those are some of the areas that I would look out for. That Mars line is going to bring a lot of energy. Also, you have that Neptune-Saturn that's kind of going through Illinois, Alabama, Tennessee, all this area right here, Wisconsin, Chicago. All this area is being activated by that Saturn-Neptune energy. And that'll be moving relatively slowly. Neptune will be there for a while. Saturn is going to move relatively slowly. So that's kind of what's going on for the United States. Again, you can look up when these planets, so like, for instance, I often like to look up Jupiter or Venus, either way. Jupiter is a good line. When Jupiter comes over your house, you can actually utilize that energy. Or if Jupiter's coming over somewhere that you want to interact with, you can utilize that energy. I also use it when I'm advertising for my business. I'll look at the different lines and utilize that as well. That's one of the powerful things about geodetic. And this is stuff I go over in the class in great detail. We really dive deep into. I'm kind of a hands-on teacher, so I use all real-world examples, and we really just kind of dive deep into the geodetic, geeking out on astrology. So the other aspect I want to look at is I want to look at Europe. So here again, this is Europe on the 1st of July. So a couple things. Now, interestingly enough, because Neptune and Saturn are in Aries, they're always going to be, Aries is always going to be 0 degrees Aries is always going to be 0 degrees of longitude right there in England, France. So this area. So this area is going to be getting a lot of energy there for quite a long time. The other aspect is we want to see the sun is going to be moving through. We got Mars moving through. Jupiter will be moving through. And then again, the Pluto is going through Germany, Greece, Austria. This whole area has got a lot of energy in there. And then the Mercury is sitting there, is going to retrograde. So if you look at the first of the month, and then also the Iran, the Venus has been going through. I want to say the 26th of today, I think it was actually on Tehran in Iran, the Venus line was. Uranus has been traveling across this. Mars is going through Pakistan. Again, the Neptune, Saturn, Moon on the first of the month is right there. My camera is in the way. In China, and we got the Pluto, Mercury over there on the east coast of Europe. I guess that's not really technically Europe. The continent there. So then we can look at the end of the month, and we'll notice that the Venus line is coming in. So in August, the Venus will be moving through. The Mercury hasn't moved very far. The Mars is coming on. The Jupiter, Venus over here has moved a little bit. So Venus will be going through India through July. So this is all things that you can utilize to understand what's happening by knowing what's going on. And the nice thing about this is that you can look up any date. All you have to do is you put the date, search for the date up here, and you're able to look up any date. So depending on the time zone and the way UTC works, for you enter the date, and quite often you'll have to enter the date ahead to have it display. So it displays the local time up here, and you enter in the UTC time. So depending on where you are, and so you can just play with this. So like if you put a date in and you realize when you look up here it's not the date you want, just offset it one way or another. This is still kind of a prototype that I've been working on, but it's still a very, very powerful tool. And the nice thing about this is that you can look up the least and most aspected planet. So like at the end of the month, Jupiter in Cancer will be the least aspected, and that Neptune in Aries will be the most aspected planet. So very often you can see this and understand potential. Now, not always things will pop off with the geodetic map, but more often than not, you'll be surprised that when you look at world events, I love using this, I don't know if you like me, but I love to geek out with astrology, and I'll utilize it for when I see world events quite often. There's a geodetic signature to the event. And you can look back historically, so this map will let you go all the way back to, I want to say the 1500s? Yeah, 1600s. And so it's really interesting to play with. And like I say, this is all stuff that I go over in great detail in the class, which will, again, we're just getting ready to start one. It's a 5-week class with Kepler College. Highly recommend it, where we dive deep into this. I hope you understand how to utilize this, and also how to utilize this with your astrocartography. And the one thing that's really nice, one of the reasons why I really like the geodetic map is because it does not need an actual time. So a lot of times with astrocartography, the natal lines or local space or any of the other mapping systems, the time matters quite a bit. And so it's harder to look up events. It's harder to look up people's information. This is the only mapping system that you do not need a time of birth. So if you're working with someone that does not have a time of birth, you can actually utilize this mapping system. The only thing that will change somewhat is the moon. Other than that, most of the planets don't move very fast in a day. And so it can be very powerful. It's one of my favorite things to kind of geek out and look into all the different aspects. And so you can utilize this understanding, so it's like, Australia's got some stuff going on there too. New Zealand's got a lot of energy going on there. That Jupiter line will be going through New Zealand. The Mercury's going to be kind of, Pluto and all this, is in the center of Australia. A lot of energy over here on the east coast of the Europe continent there. And that Pluto and Aquarius sitting right there on Taiwan, which is, not my favorite thing, but it's, not that I get to choose what's going on. And again, that Mercury retrograde is sitting there in between this area, kind of dancing there. Again, so there's a lot of energy there as well. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, you can check this out at geodeticmap.com. If you want to find me, just go to ralphmcintyre.com. Or if you want to get your own astrocartography map that has the geodetic, you can go to astromaplinks.com. Also, find me on my YouTube channel. I have a ton of videos there. Anyways, hope you enjoy this and have a spectacular month.